Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode 74, recording on Thursday, August 26th, 2021. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And it is good to be back. 2 weeks off. Literally nothing happened, nothing to talk about, but it was very nice to have Alex fill in and talk some Rocket Rumble. I listened to it on my way to the cottage, so I already messaged him, but thanks, Alex, for joining. And we still have Rocket Rumble codes for Steam. If you're interested, and you should be, email gamejunkpodcast@gmail.com. And, get in there. Get it while you can. Get it while it's cheap and free, because it won't be for long. All right, I'm fired up. I was fired up in the pre-show. I'm ready to go. We're talking Gamescom, the snooze fest of the year. It was brutal. We'll be doing our top five. Top five? Are you kidding me? We'll be talking about 5 things that we're mildly interested in. Although I will say, my number one came out of nowhere. Number one with a bullet. Boom! Loving this game. Can't wait for it. I'm jacked to see if it's number one on your list. I know it's number one on Sean's. I haven't even talked to him yet. I know it is. Huck, it's got to be 1 or 2. It's got to be.
I don't know.
Might not be. It might have slipped through the cracks with his intermittent skipping over video and stuff like
yes,
that.
definitely.
It's very probable. All right. Anyway, can you tell I'm happy to be talking vids? I'm in a good mood.
I don't know if you're happy or angry. I can't tell, Frank.
That's when I'm happy, when I'm angry. Am I the only person like that? That's what I get happy with. Ranting and raving. All right. Let's get into it. Let's just start off with our number 5s. We'll talk about Gamescom throughout. You know what? Change in plan. Let's talk about how bad Gamescom was first before we get into our top 5. A lot of trends in Gamescom that were, I almost did instead of a top 5, a bottom 10. And I wasn't going to mention any game in particular and say it looked awful. It was just all these videos were about. I watched Xbox, I watched the opening night, and I watched the future games, I think were the 3 videos I watched. If I missed stuff, I apologize, but believe me, those 3 videos put me to sleep. So that's where I drew the line. That was 6 hours of viewing in prep today. And
yeah, I mean,
that wasn't my fill.
I just watched the Microsoft and the opening night live, and that alone is, a lot of stuff and a lot of filler in there for sure. I think there was a couple interesting things, but it's weird. There have been a lot of these online press events this year, and part of it maybe is the COVID situation and people just deciding, we'll just put up, videos here and there to announce things. And it's been kind of good for us because it gives us stuff to talk about on the show. But, it does end up, you see games that you've seen 5 times in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit of overload. Which
is kind of sad because in retrospect, if you had a great game, in my opinion, that wouldn't get a lot of attention, like my number 1, this is the perfect place to announce it or do something because everything else was so lackluster or stuff we've heard before. That's why this game stood out to me. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. I'm in. Sorry, enough hyping up for that. Huck, general thoughts? You barfing?
I might know what. I was skipping. I was skipping a lot.
It's a good strategy.
I don't know. I like my technique of 2 times speeding everything and skipping. Makes it go much faster than 6 hours. I would not have been able to sit there for 6 hours. And I only watched a small part of the Xbox One and then the opening night live, which is the stupidest name in the history of naming things. Why name it that? Was it even live? I'm pretty sure maybe some of it was, but there was a lot of recorded segments in there of him talking to people that definitely weren't there. So, I don't know. No real comments in the positive.
It was not
negative side.
Attached to my screen. I was kind of disjointed, so I honestly don't know. And a lot of the interview stuff I was listening, not watching. But just a few things I know we need to touch on. We gotta. Number 1, these fake awards for each platform, which did they say it was a voting thing? It was the strangest thing. It was just a vote for the top game for each platform. And
It made no sense. Like they didn't explain it. It's just that this was they were announcing them during the opening night live thing, and they would just randomly cut in every now and then with, these are the nominees for best Switch game. And it would just be like games that aren't out yet, games we maybe haven't even seen anything from at this show. Like, I don't even understand how it's like, Mario and Rabbids was up for like best Switch game. Did they even have a trailer in this?
I don't remember.
Like, what are we judging this on? It was so weird.
You're telling me Halo beat Elden Ring on Xbox, but Elden Ring won on PlayStation? That doesn't make sense to me at all. And imagine having to accept one of those awards. I think the last one with the Elden Ring guy is like, thank you for this amazing award. What? What is this award? Is what I'd be saying. Anyway, it was all like weird PR. I don't even, my hunch was that it was paid for in some way. I have
Seemed like it. I mean, how is it possible that the two nominees for best Switch game are both Ubisoft games and there's no first party Nintendo games in there?
I don't know. It was very strange. Very strange. Well, while we're talking about amazing awards and the prestige, another trend I was really not digging. Everyone's saying they're honored to be presenting a game. Like, you're just showing a game I'm honored to be showing this. Like, get real. Like, it's getting a little crazy. Like, you don't have to be honored to present every game. Like, the smallest game. Like, what is this? Just say, there's a new game. Enough with this. Garbage and hoopla in general. Hype. Trying to hype up things that don't need to be hyped is getting out of control. Like hyping up songs for games, hyping up DLC, characters, announcement, pre-order dates are being hyped now. Like, we're pleased to announce pre-orders begin September for Horizon Forbidden West. Who is excited to pre-order something? Like, it's ridiculous. A show is sparse and has nothing to say. Like, ugh. I think that's all the stuff that was really bugging me, but just the hype train for garbage is out of control. It just reads so false. Like, no one's excited about this. Stop trying to sell it so hard. It's really gross.
And just on the topic of like filler stuff in this show, like, what was up with like the Age of Empires weird history diversion? Like,
I was thinking the same thing, and I think what that was is they talked about this briefly later. They're incorporating those like mini history lessons into the game. So I think that's something from the game. I could be wrong, but that was the vibe I got.
That sounds something like what Ubisoft does with Assassin's Creed, where they have like essentially the education version of Egypt or London, or what was the other one they did? France.
Rome.
Yeah, Rome. So they have sort of like you can walk around this environment. I wonder if it's something like that, except historical context. That's kind of cool. I didn't watch that. I totally skipped that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It was a long video, and I was waiting for them to get to the actual tie-in to the game, and they kind of didn't. It was just like, this is something that's in the game. Here's some historical background on the trebuchet. Like, okay. Very strange.
Just to be clear, I think Odyssey is Greek, isn't it? Not Rome?
Yes, it is.
Unless an old one was Greek. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a definitive thing on that, but I believe it is. One last thing I wanted to touch on, because we've been talking about how good indie art design is. And like every indie game we're seeing at these showcases look amazing. I'm going to follow that up with how bad AAA art design is. Like every trailer I saw looks so generic, pseudo lifelike realistic graphics that are not that interesting. Like, it's a bummer. All these games blend together. There's no style at all. I think AAA games like Nintendo does great. Sony here and there really step it up with that stuff. But the stuff I saw other than Forza Horizon, which I think has great art design, just lackluster, boring art design. Like, indie is crushing AAA when it comes to video game art.
Yeah.
A or nay? Give it to me.
I agree. I've been getting games mixed up all year that just kind of look the same and sound the same, and it is mostly the AAA stuff.
Not to mention like Dead by Daylight and Dying Light, and they're both zombie games and look generic, and holy crap, like step it up.
Yeah.
State of Decay. Didn't they announce something with
State of Decay? That's
2,
another one, yeah.
which is another kind of similar game. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a
Dead
lot
by
of the
Daylight is
same.
the one I meant. Or State of Decay is the one I meant instead of
Oh.
Dead by Daylight. I can't.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, that's
But
okay. I mean,
I'm
they
just
all do look
so unimpressed with the stuff I was seeing from big studios. Like, Indie, you're killing it. Good job. AAA, time to go back to the drawing board, literally. All right, let's get into our top fives. Anything else you guys want to talk about that was disappointing or strange or amazing? Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think Gamescom was a revelation.
No, I mean, the only thing that I thought was really weird is everybody was waiting to find out when Halo Infinite was coming out. Like, it seemed like a given they were going to have to announce something at the show, and they chose not to announce it during the Xbox press conference, but they saved it for the opening night live. And even within
they
that,
said during the Xbox it was December 8th.
I don't think so. Maybe I missed it. It's possible, but I don't remember seeing it. And
And they showed nothing.
Yeah, they showed nothing. They just had these like new controllers and exclusive consoles.
Well, they
which
showed
looked
that
cool, but I mean, that's all you got.
Like a story trailer thing, but there was no
that CG.
Yeah. I mean, Halo is not in good shape, in my opinion, if they're showing nothing.
One thing about that trailer is right at the beginning they showed like Big Ben, like as if it's taking place in London, England, and that the whatever that race is called, I can't remember it's not the Horde, it's the other one.
Flood?
I guess is the Flood. No, the Flood
Covenant?
is like
Covenant.
The Covenant was like on that planet, so obviously that's planet Earth. And does Halo take place in the like Earth?
Oh yeah, like Halo 2 takes place on Earth, a lot of it.
Does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a long time.
That's all right. Don't feel bad. Halo lore is brutal. But
Yeah.
either way, they haven't shown much from this game. I think they're heavily banking on it being free to play multiplayer. Like, even that should make them a ton of money.
They did announce, I mean, it wasn't part of the show, but it's not going to launch with co-op campaign. They're cutting co-op campaign for the initial launch. So that's.
I wish they'd cut it completely, because every Halo game, that, especially Halo 5, that's tried to do a co-op campaign has butchered it. The design suffers as a result of the co-op campaign. So I think they'd be better off doing co-op missions and other things that are designed, or just like Horde modes or something like that, because their co-op design is not good. Anyway,
I've only ever beaten a Halo game, I think, with a co-op, other than Halo Reach. I think I beat by myself, but Halo 1, 2, and 3 were I beat all co-op.
I just remember
like
the Halo
having
5
options.
bosses were like, it was the same boss over and over again, where you had to hit this weak spot in the chest or the back, and it was just designed for these weird multiplayer fights where if you had your AI squad mates, it barely worked. It's not good. Halo's great for multiplayer, awesome single player campaigns. I'm sure some people love the co-op, but I think the design suffers as a result. But yeah, I guess the biggest announcement was Halo Infinite, which was not much of an announcement. So let's get into our top 5. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Sure.
I'll go first. My number 5, and these number 5, 4, 3, and 2 are pretty weak. Very weak. Number 5, the weakest of the top 5, obviously. TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, which we've seen many times before. But in the brief glimpse I saw today, it was like they showed a lot of enemies on screen. It looked like they were amping up kind of the pace and the fun factor, which might be dated a bit from the classic TMNT games. So the brief amount I saw today has me a lot more excited for this game.
They also announced April O'Neil as a playable character, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this game. I did not put this on my list. I'm just looking up. Did these
I know
guys
your
also
kids are
make...
excited for this game.
Oh yeah, they're jacked. I was just wondering if they also did.
I don't think it's coming to Game Pass, so you're gonna have to pay some money for a game for once.
That's fine. These guys did Flint Hook, eh?
Oh yeah, I love Flint Hook.
Yeah,
No,
I thought maybe they did one of the other brawler games that came out, but it doesn't look like it.
I thought they
Yeah,
did
I'm really excited for this.
Scott Pilgrim, or was that a different studio?
Ubisoft is Scott Pilgrim.
But I thought, yeah, maybe but it's like it's a smaller studio within Ubisoft.
No, that
right?
company did something else recently.
Okay.
Could be wrong though. Could be wrong. Sean, do your research while we're talking.
All right. I realize I hate my 5 here. Let me.
Why wouldn't you? I hate my top 5. I worked on it all day.
I worked on it. Oh man.
The difference.
All right, fine. I'll just throw this out here. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I guess I got 5. I guess I'll go with Midnight Fight Express, which I think we've seen before.
Is that the one-person developed game?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
From Poland, I think, or something?
Yeah, so that one looked pretty good, looked pretty fluid, reminded me of that Sci-Fu game. I don't know, looked fun. Looked like there was a lot of enemies. It looked like you were like switching characters, or that you kind of had a bunch of different characters you could play as. Not really sure what the, overall gameplay is like, the high-level gameplay, but the moment-to-moment looked pretty fun. And, yeah, my number 5.
Yeah, so I don't know. Confirmed Scott Pilgrim, Ubisoft Montreal. That's all it says. I thought there was some other name in there, but I guess not. My number 5. This one I think was shown before somewhere. It looked kind of familiar, but it looked fun, and I actually did download the game. Whether I played it or not, we'll see. But Splitgate. Did you guys recall this one? It's basically just like a deathmatch first-person shooter, but with portals. And I was a little bit like, the portals look exactly like the portals from Portal.
Yes, they
like,
do.
come on, give a little bit of your own spin on that. But
aren't they the exact same color too, like orange and blue?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of complementary colors that you can use for games. When we were like researching color stuff for Embers of Miram, which has like a kind of a binary thing where you need complementary colors. There's a lot of twin stick analog games. I would say 75% of them use orange and blue. The other 25% use green and purple, or in some shade. So yeah, it needs to be a new complementary color pair. That's the way people need to step it up.
Well, I feel like there was, like, I was paying attention to it, and I think there were some purple portals in there too. So I don't know if there's a reason for that or what, but anyway, it seems like a cool thing to introduce to a first-person shooter. I've heard good things. I'm gonna check it out. Maybe it's free to play, so. Yeah.
I thought it looked pretty generic. Not interesting.
Good enough for number 5.
Well,
Frank?
good enough for number 4 is a game that came out 2 years ago. Death Stranding Director's Cut. Not that I'm particularly excited, but this trailer, like highlighting all the new stuff or potentially stuff that was in the game because I didn't beat it, gave me the biggest sense of regret I've ever had in my life for not finishing a game. Like, it looks amazing. And it's so strange. There's so many weird ideas. The graphics are insanely good. And I've never had FOMO so much in my life. And I need to play Death Stranding.
You didn't beat Death Stranding?
No,
really?
it's an absolute embarrassment.
I thought you did.
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of the same feeling. Like, I played maybe like 10 or 12 hours.
Bosses, I'm like, holy! Even before the bosses, the boss rush mode or whatever it is, the way they intro it, where it's like that one actor doing like a selfie video with a camera, like, it's so unique. I have to play this game. Like,
yeah, I thought the trailer looked fun, and some of the new things they're introducing looked cool. But, I mean, you mentioned the boss fights. I mean, that's something, like I said, I played 10 or 12 hours of this game. I feel like I barely saw any combat. So I'm like, where's the combat in this game? Clearly I'm missing something and I need to keep playing. But I mean the visuals looked good as it was on PS4, so now on PS5 I can only imagine.
Like the buddy robots, all that weird stuff. Like, wake up, Frankie. Get on it.
I'm next. Number 4, Cult of the Lamb. Now this was some sort of like weird
Roguelike, I think.
roguelike. It looked like half uh where's my notes on it? Half like Don't Starve, half Binding of Isaac. Weird like collect stuff slash shoot stuff slash roguelike stuff. I don't know. It looked
I would
weird.
say Binding of Isaac is a pretty close comparison.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought the art style was pretty neat. They had kind of like quasi 3D environments you can kind of roam around in. It looked neat. I don't know. I probably will not play it, but I'm reaching here. Big reach.
John, what's your next reach?
So my number 4, and I have no idea what the reaction to this is going to be. It could be on your lists. I could be laughed out of the room for putting this on my list. But Doke V, or whatever the hell this game was.
Yeah.
KB, I believe, is the title.
OKV.
I have no idea what it is, but that trailer really stood out to me as something strange and interesting. Like, it's an open world game, very cartoony, very stylized. Kind of looks like it's for kids, but yet there looks like there's so much you can do in this world, and there's, boss fights and combat. I was like, I could see this being a lot of fun. I just
I
don't
thought it looked really
know
good.
what it is.
I can see it being Frank's number 1.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I was trying to...
I wasn't sure, but
Look, that game looks fucking amazing. It should be both of your number ones. It's basically everybody's GTA or Hot Shots GTA. It's like that look of one of those clap hands games taken to... And not only that, the idea of cars and all the vehicle traversal being a top-down view, almost in between classic GTA and where GTA 3 took it. I love that. It looks like they're making locomotion fun in this open world game, which I do not see enough. Second, the effects and combat look incredible. Absolutely blowing me away. We haven't even gotten into these weird animal creatures that you get yet. And I'm like, where
now we know why it's his number 1.
I saw these animal creatures to start it, and I'm like, where did they go? I want to see the aminals. And then they finally show up. Not even that big of a deal. By that time, I was already sold. I don't care about the Doke. I can't remember what they're called, Doke B or something like that. But holy shit, this game looks incredible.
Yeah, it does look incredible. Like, it almost looks like they're ray tracing it. Like, that's how good it looks. And they might be. They might be running it on some super high-end PC and just rendering out the video to make it look awesome. But
I can't believe no one's like, this isn't the game of the show, and people like it's not on all the other video game websites. It's the only game that stood out to me, and it stood out in a big way.
And there is so much gameplay variety they showed in that short video. Like, they showed driving cars, they showed jet skiing, they showed using that umbrella thing, skateboarding, riding bikes, like flying through the air with whatever that swing mechanic is.
But more importantly, those individual modes of transportation looked fun in their own right, and they looked different. It's not like just driving around like you've driven around in every game before. And the combat, dazzled, dare I say.
Yeah.
It's hitting the two things that no games seem to be doing anymore. Fun and entertaining. And I'm in. Hello, Doke V. Spoiler, you're my number 1. I love you.
Well, it's interesting just because, like,
I just Sean has ahead of this game.
Well, I mean, the thing, like I was saying, the thing that holds it back a bit for me is it looks like it's just for kids. I'm like, what's the actual story here? Like, what are you doing in this game? Like,
trying to tell me you don't play kids games? We all play kids games.
Yeah, I know we do, but there's just
like a barrier to entry. I'll fire up Ronald McDonald Land on Genesis.
It's just a vibe. It's just something about it that was like, I don't know, is this for me? But like,
that could be just the Koreanness.
It is. Yeah, it could be that too. I mean, just like that kind of,
I think they said it's made in South Korea, right? So,
I think so.
Yeah, so I mean, they're a little more like anime, in general with their art styles, I would say. So it could just be that it's
Yeah,
kind of anime.
it reminded me a little bit of like Genshin Impact, which I've played a bit of, and I mean, just the art style and some of the sensibility of it, I wasn't loving. But the mechanics seemed solid, and I could see myself really getting into that game too. So
I got mild, very mild, just in a it made me think of it way. Wonderful 101 vibes. Not that I've played that game that much, but apparently it's made by Pearl Abyss. It is a South Korean company, and they did that Black Desert game, which looks completely
Oh,
different.
really?
Yeah.
I never played that game. I remember it.
Well, this game rocks. Pre-playing it a 6 out of 5. Huck, your next game.
I think actually you're on number 3.
yeah,
Oh, you're done? Okay. Sorry, I just got.
No, well, isn't that
that was my number 4. So now it's your
yeah,
number 3.
yeah, so
Okay.
you're on number 3.
My number 3 is 9 Years of Shadows, which is a Metroid-like that looked pretty interesting. It's got kind of a pixel art style that reminded me of Blasphemous a bit. I think that game announced some DLC and a sequel this week as well.
Was this from the Future of Games show?
Yes, Future Game Show, and the music is by the composer who did Castlevania, Mega Man, and Metal Gear. Not that the music was a huge selling factor for me, but that was basically the selling point of the video, it seemed like. But I thought it looked pretty cool. Hadn't heard of it before. That's all it takes today.
Yeah, I didn't see this one, but it does look cool.
Watching it right now. Looks
Like a Metroid-like. That
Yep.
looks
Yep,
hefty.
it does. Okay, my number 3, which I'm a little, I feel kind of embarrassed that this is on my list, but the new Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga game.
I don't. Are you serious?
I know.
It's just 9 games in one. They've all been released.
See, this is the thing. Like, I've been wondering about this too. Like, I mean, I don't know. My kids haven't been really that into the Lego games lately. I don't know if they're over them or what. But this one, they've been working on it so long that I feel like it's got to be bringing something big to the table. Like, I just don't know if it is doing that. Like, it does feel like it's a rehash, but I know like it's a brand new game and obviously covering all 9 movies. If they go full kind of open world like they did with the Marvel ones, they could be pretty cool.
So it looks like they could have maybe done that because they had some sort of galaxy map. Also, I don't recall them having voice acting before, and they seem to imply that it's going to be voice acted. Wasn't it just kind of like shoulder shrugs and facial expressions on the things on the Lego characters?
More recent ones definitely had voice acting.
Did they? Okay. And then also, it seemed like there was a lot of really interesting camera shots during like specific, like, iconic scenes. I don't know, in some of the like when Yoda was fighting Palpatine or whatever, and I guess there was one where I can't remember who it was fighting. It must have been from one of the newer movies. They were fighting on some sort of like ledge or something, and the camera was kind of like over the shoulder. Even when they showed, I think it was like Leia shooting stormtroopers in the Death Star, she had this sort of like uptight over the shoulder, almost like Resident Evil 4 style camera, which I'm pretty sure the old games did not have. I'm pretty sure they were more just like pulled back 3D camera.
Yeah,
back.
the sword the lightsaber fight with Darth Vader and Luke from Empire looked like it had a different camera angle too. Like a closed-in camera angle that I don't remember from the Lego games.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like they've added some sort of level of polish to this game than way more than just re-releasing it like the old ones.
Yeah.
Like I remember the old ones feeling kind of clunky and being kind of a chore to get around, especially how like they did all the character selection screen, and I'm hoping maybe they improve that a little bit. And yeah, it just looks like a lot more polished. It looks like the graphics are way better than before, and I don't know if that's just because of how they've pulled in the camera closer, so it is closer on the character models, and so they look better, but it just seems like they've done more that has me interested, or I should say intrigued.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, I think they've iterated on those games more than maybe people would think if you haven't played them. Like the Lego Ninjago one had a lot of combat stuff that they hadn't added previously.
There's a Lego Ninjago game?
Yep.
Oh boy.
Based on the movie, the Lego Ninjago movie, I should say.
Okay. My kids are deep in a Ninjago right now.
Oh, nice.
I didn't realize there was a game.
But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I'm not. That's not like necessarily a day one purchase for me, but I'll be curious to see what comes of that one. My number 3 is kind of a cheat, but I'm going with the humble Game Pass announcement. There was just a lot of stuff in that trailer that looked cool to me, and Frank's not impressed, but I don't care. I mean, more cool indie games on Game Pass. Why is that not an exciting thing?
Oh, pick one or two.
I don't want to. I'm
say every indie one.
I mean, there is one that's included in that's higher on my list, but we'll get to that.
Okay. My number 2 is Project Relic, which was part of the Future Game Show, which is a 3D action game that I thought really impressed. It had awesome effects, very fast pace, like running through the level with in my opinion, great camera, third-person camera. And I had never heard of it. I thought it looked really cool. The main player art isn't amazing in the brief amount I've seen, but I thought it looked like a lot of fun. And again, normally wouldn't probably make a list like this, but that's what we're dealing with today. Did you guys see this?
This looks pretty good. I didn't see this before. It looks pretty good.
It says a faster, brighter, more colorful Dark Souls.
Well,
one of the
I'm seeing
comments.
Speed and color, which is what had me excited. So I would agree. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay, my number 2 was Dokey V. And surprisingly, not number 1, I see, but too bad. I got another one at number 1. And I think we already talked about it. Looks incredible. Lots of gameplay variety. Enough said.
Yep. My number 2, this was one of the bigger announcements at the show, and they really didn't show much, but based on the concept I'm in, Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is the real-time strategy game from the makers of XCOM, but with Marvel characters.
I don't think it's a real-time strategy game.
It's not?
I think they said it's a tactics RPG.
Yeah, it's a tactics RPG.
Not that it's that far off, but they did. Because when I read about it, I heard, Marvel XCOM, and I don't know if it's exactly that, but just...
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm splitting
I don't know why I'm saying real-time. In my head, I'm thinking turn-based.
Oh, sorry. I misspoke. I was thinking it was turn-based strategy like XCOM, but it's...
Turn-based RPG is what I see in a bunch of places, so... Yeah, I mean, they didn't really... It was just like a cinematic trailer, and that was it, other than... I think they had a brief interview, and they said, what kind of game is this? And whatever they said, tactical RPG, I guess. Hard to say exactly what that means, but...
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea or the elevator pitch, but the art style just sucked. Like, I thought it looked awful. Oh, like
I didn't mind it.
Wearing this kind of generic, they all had the same color uniforms on, and their costumes all looked the same. Nah, I'm out.
So what happened to Frank during his vacation that he just hates everything now? I mean, I guess that's kind of the same.
I think he was always like that.
I guess that's true.
When I'm angry, I'm happy. That game, they showed nothing, and what they did show was completely underwhelming. I stand by my statement.
Fair enough.
Fair enough indeed. Frank already did his number 1, so I'll do my number 1. Marvel Midnight Suns.
Yes.
Because for Axis mainly, and XCOM pedigree, basically is what I'm basing that on.
I get that. If you love XCOM, the idea of doing a kind of a Marvel
And
super
I also love like
version of that sounds pretty good.
And I also love like Final Fantasy Tactics, which I'm assuming is kind of like what they're going to be going for, sort of thing. Although XCOM sort of has that kind of element too. So when they say it's not like XCOM, I'm kind of like, well, what are they going to do then? It's kind of strange that they would say it's not like XCOM when I consider XCOM a tactical RPG. I guess maybe the RPG-ness of XCOM is not as strong, maybe, as what they're going for.
Yeah, I think we're kind of splitting hairs with the difference between the two genres. I'm not an expert in, like, I don't play a lot of those games, but they're pretty similar.
Yeah. So, anyways, screw you, Frank. Number 1.
Well, I'm looking at the image from the announced trailer, and it looks like they took, like, in my opinion, which is lame Mortal Kombat character art in the latest Mortal Kombats, and just like took a yellow brush and painted over it. Like,
yeah, they put the filter. You know, it used to be blue filters. Now it's yellow filters.
I mean, just an interesting mix of
about the announcement, but
it's an interesting mix of characters, like Blade with Wolverine, with Iron Man, with Ghost Rider, like strange bunch of people to put together. But
and I like the idea of the turn-based aspect more than like Marvel. What was those Alliance games? Yeah, where you're just kind of like real time button smashy. That's not that fun to me. Whereas the turn-based aspect, I think, could be interesting.
I don't disagree.
Wasn't there another Marvel game they announced? I feel like it was just a mobile thing or something, right?
Yeah, mobile.
Yeah.
Android as well.
So my number 1, I think, was already on Huck's list. Midnight Fight Express. This thing looked amazing. I don't like. Has this been shown before? I feel like the name sounded familiar, but
I think it has been shown before.
I certainly think it looked impressive for a one-person team, but I didn't think it looked amazing.
I guess the thing that remains to be seen is how it feels. Like the trailer looked awesome, and I think it's just a brawler. Like it reminded me of like a Hotline Miami kind of game or something like that. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but what seems interesting about it is like the choreography of the fight choreography, and I don't know if it's. I was trying to think, like, what is it about this that feels like it hasn't been done before in other games? And I think it's partially like the reaction of the enemies. Like usually the main player in games will have like cool attack moves and cool choreographed attacks, but then the enemies always just kind of do like a generic hit reaction. But in this one, like all the hit reactions are custom to the attack as well. And it just feels very fluid, and it looks impressive. But, again, when you start getting into like cool fight animation, obviously the problem is like, do you get locked into these animations? Like, is it going to feel clunky, or is it actually going to play well? And that's what I'm not sure about.
I think would probably just take the Batman. It looks like Batman Arkham games and like elaborating on that, which is not a bad thing. I take it back. It looks amazing. I don't know what I was seeing earlier today. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Should have been on my top 5 list. I don't hate everything. I think it looks really good, and I can't believe that it didn't move my needle earlier today.
I just looked, and they showed this game, or this guy showed this game at last year's Gamescom, and I just quickly kind of compared the two trailers, and this one definitely shows like a lot more stuff fast paced, and also there's a lot more camera work and a lot more dynamic environments, which I think really make it look like 10 times better. So obviously he's taken this past year, and it looked like the combat was pretty similar, so I imagine he's just really refined kind of like that polish of the game, and yeah, it looks much better than the previous trailer in my opinion. So I think it's pretty cool that he stuck with it and has made it, look really awesome.
Yeah, and this is through Humble Games, which I guess means it is coming to Game Pass as well. So That's cool.
Does it though? I don't know if we can make that assumption. Humble Games is just a publisher.
Yeah, but I saw a list, and I'm pretty sure it was on it. Yeah, this site has a list of all the Humble games coming to Game Pass, and it is on there.
Oh, okay.
I still don't think that should be a selling.
Oh, you know what? It does say Game Pass at the end of the trailer. So,
It's just the monetization. That's it. We're not evaluating monetization schemes. We're evaluating games. That's the last I'll say about it.
It's just for informational purposes, Frank.
It's
Mario
just for
RPG
me, so I know I can play
just
it.
as great of a game if it was $1,000.
So we should mention also Horizon Forbidden West was announced. The release date was announced, which confirms that it won't be hitting this year. But it's not that far off. It's February of next year, so that's kind of cool.
Happy birthday, Father. I won't be seeing you on your birthday. So I'll be playing Horizon.
Are you guys disappointed, surprised? Did you already assume that the rumors that were out there were true, that it wasn't coming this year?
Disappointed and not surprised.
Yeah.
No comment. Whatever.
Anything else? I will say the Jet the Far Shore trailer I thought looked cool. I mean, we've seen it a bunch this year, but
Yeah, that was my 5th on the list. I bumped it because I've seen it so much, but I'm still excited for that game. I think it looks awesome. Like the Saints Row announcement, like that trailer went on forever, and it was like the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, and they love that CG shit.
Oh,
So useless.
I mean, I was never a Saints Row fan anyway, but yeah, that did nothing for me. I do think Forza Horizon looks really good. 5. I am excited for that game, but it looked like a slightly next-gen version of a game I've played many times before, and I'm excited for a sequel, although I didn't play 4 much, to be honest. And
Along those same lines, Call of Duty Vanguard.
Yeah.
They showed a long video. Looks good. You know it's going to be polished, but it kind of looks like typical
yeah,
first-person shooter stuff. Like, I mean, nothing was really revolutionary. And then the weird thing was, like, I noticed in the trailer they had this stuff, and then they're like 1 hour earlier, and it went from basically like nighttime to middle of the day. I'm like, I don't think that was 1 hour, but minor nitpick.
I don't know if so. The Call of Duty thing was like the big kind of reveal that the main character is female. Is that, or like, can you choose other characters, or is it?
Yeah, I got the sense that it was like telling multiple stories from I think it was because they had the voice actor there who voices that character that they were showing.
Laura Bailey, yeah.
That particular section of gameplay. I think I got the sense that you play as multiple people, but I could be totally misremembering that.
Well, the guy that was there, the designer or whatever, he was saying that there was like a bunch of different storylines you kind of follow along with.
I thought so too.
So maybe that's what you're remembering.
Yes, I believe so. But I agree, it looked good, but certainly didn't blow me away, especially considering I don't know if they've announced whether this one is coming out for last gen or if it's exclusive to next gen. Is it the first Call of Duty did they cover that? Because I didn't see anything about it.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't remember seeing it. I cannot imagine they would put this
Yeah,
only on next gen.
Especially with like the popularity of Warzone and stuff like that. I cannot see it being next gen only. But I don't think there was an official announcement about that unless I missed it. All right, we done with this shit show or what?
Yeah. I was just going to say the Amazon game they showed it. I guess that's what you could say. They showed it. And also there's
New World, is that the one?
New World, yeah. And also Ubisoft should just not go to any more of these. Just don't. Just wait until the game comes out.
Because of Far Cry, how many times we've seen that game around?
That and the Riders Republic game, like I feel like we haven't even seen Riders Republic that much, but I've seen it too much already.
I don't get the Far Cry, like clearly they think Giancarlo Esposito is like a huge selling factor for this game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I get it. I know he's in the game. I got it. You gotta sell me on something else.
Yeah,
But I
like
do
maybe who
feel
you
like,
play as, maybe, or
yeah. But
something.
honestly, if the game's good, I'm probably going to buy it. So I assume their strategy is to reach out to people who might never buy the game, not to people who see video game reviews and buy games that get good reviews or who already like the series. So
Yeah,
I
but are
guess
those people going to be watching Gamescom till 2/3 of the way through a 2.5 hour length video?
maybe
I doubt it.
I doubt it, but yeah, I've seen so much story trailer for this game, and I guess it's just, angry Frank here, but I don't give a shit about video game story. I know I'm in the minority, but I don't care.
So Huck, what about the game you're working on? Are you allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, so I'm helping out with the guys who are working on a game called Soundfall, which had a small, short, like 45-second kind of trailer. The game's already been announced, but the game's called Soundfall, and it's by a studio called Drastic Games. And yeah, it's sort of like a rhythm shooter, sort of like Crypt of the Necrodancer type thing, except it's not Crypt of the Necrodancer is more like combat right beside you, right? Like melee combat and stuff. There's not range shooting,
I
and
don't think so.
and your bullets like don't move, and your attacks don't like move at the same pace as the beat. Like once you have to hit on the beat to use your weapon, or your melee attack or whatever, but that then the bullets kind of go off in real time. They don't move along with the beat as well, so it's slightly different. And the enemies they move in real time. They don't really move with the beat either. They could do some attacks with the beat, but they don't. It's not like Crypt of the Necrodancer where you have that time to sort of plan or whatever, kind of like on the beat. But yeah, it comes out. I think it was. It's already been revealed. I think they posted a trailer last year or the year before. They did some sort of Kickstarter thing for it. So they've been working on it for a while. We're getting close to being finished, getting closer, and so look out for that in 2022. I don't know if there was a date on that trailer, but I can safely say it'll come out in 2022. I think. Yeah, and we also want to mention Drinkbox. Their announcement.
Yeah.
These were both in the pre-show to the opening night live, and they announced. Now they really just announced that there is online co-op multiplayer, I believe.
But then Nobody Saves the World.
Yeah, for Nobody Saves the World. But then the other thing was that it was Game Pass, which I don't think has been.
I'm pretty sure the Game Pass
announced.
was out there. I feel like we discussed that with Graham, but I wasn't sure about the co-op thing. I think that was new.
Okay. Yeah, I knew we had discussed that with Graham. I didn't know if the world knew it, though.
Right. Maybe not. I don't remember. One other small thing that was announced, it probably isn't that big of a deal, but they did announce that cloud gaming is coming to Xbox consoles. So you can cloud game on your Xbox One or your Series X if you wanted. But I guess the selling point is play games that look like Series X games on your Xbox One.
I guess the selling factor would be not having to download games to try them as well if you have Game Pass.
Yeah, that's true.
And not having to buy a Series X to try like the Medium, for instance, or Flight Simulator.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I believe
no one wants to buy it anyway.
Yeah, I think that is kind of interesting in terms of like Microsoft obviously not being too concerned about driving people to buy the new console, which seems weird. But at the same time, I mean, they're putting all their games on PC. So they obviously don't care about driving you to the next console. They care about driving you to Game Pass, which seems to be their push. And
yeah,
I mean, they get lots of games.
It also begs the question of, is it coming to Switch? If you're doing it on other consoles, can you push it to Switch?
Been pushing that idea for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would probably depend on how much kickback Nintendo gets from having it on Switch. If it's, do they get whatever percentage of every Game Pass subscription? Then
yeah, I don't know.
Possibly Nintendo could be very interested in that.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? I don't know if there was anything else.
I mean, I didn't watch any of the stuff today, but and I think
Neither did I.
is there stuff going on tomorrow as well still, or
I
all
believe so.
weekend? I'm not sure, but there may be some more other things coming out still.
Yep.
Oh,
But
I was just gonna say one more thing, Frank. The Halo Elite controller, yay or nay?
I like the color scheme. I'm still not like the Elite Series 2. Is it still an Xbox One controller though? Like I don't think
I assumed it was a Series X
I thought all
controller.
their
because it's
new
got like the
controllers are can
button,
do both,
the
but
share button. I think it's a Series X controller, but I thought the current Elite 2 was that or that button was a Switch. I didn't take a good look at it, but will not be buying. That's okay.
I thought it looked really cool though.
I thought the Horizon controller looked way cooler.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of weird that they have the Halo Infinite console coming out like what 3-4 weeks before the game, which I guess
Halo
makes
Head's got a
sense.
pre-download, man.
I guess that's true. I guess that is true.
How to watch all your the Halo story summarized in 10 minutes or whatever. Like,
Well, I'm sure they wanted the game out like 3 or 4 weeks earlier too, but it feels like they picked the last possible date you could before.
I still think it's going to be multiplayer only, December 8th, and the campaign will be 2022.
Bold.
That would be big if that was the case.
They're talking about multiplayer a whole lot, and I haven't heard a peep or seen a frame of single player since that disaster we saw. So
Yep, you're right.
I wouldn't be holding your breath. And if you are, hold your mouth too, because you're going to be barfing up in your mouth. All right.
It's possible.
We're done. We are done with Gamescom. Moving on. What have you guys been playing?
Well, we've all been playing one thing. Should we
Yeah,
talk about
12
that
minutes.
first?
Well, let me just get the two quick things I have out of the way. Played a lot of Mario Golf at the cottage, nightly, pretty much. A lot of people playing it. Not the Rush version, just traditional golf. Was a lot of fun. It's a great golf game, and I'm great at it. Number two, Hades. I've probably played 13 hours of Hades, I would say, in the last 3 days. I love it. It finally took. It finally has latched onto me, and the one more run is happening. Might be related to being able to get trophies now. Just might be a factor. I get the hype for Hades. It is most likely going to be the best roguelike I've ever played.
Yeah, it's real good.
So I do have a few other things. I guess I'll just quickly mention Axiom Verge 2. I finished this.
You finished it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I liked it quite a bit, but we talked the last show about the optional bosses thing. And I think in the end, not a fan. I mean, I don't know if that was a choice to make the game more accessible or what the reasoning was there. But ultimately, you kind of end up with a game that, for these kind of games, the boss fights are kind of like part of the pacing, right? Like it builds to a big fight, and the atmosphere builds, and the environments, you're getting close to a boss, and it's part of the whole flow of the game. And with these, you're kind of just walking along, and all of a sudden you hit a screen with a giant boss, and it's like, okay, I'll either hammer on it a bunch of times and try to kill it or keep moving. But there's no real attack patterns or anything like that. It feels like something's missing. Because other than that, you're left with a game that's just about exploration, which I like. And, the big thing with this game is there's sort of like a, what do they call it? I think the Void or something. It's kind of like an alternate universe mirror version of the world, and you kind of jump back and forth to help you navigate through the world. And I was kind of into that, and, it just felt like at a certain point you're just, searching the map for that one area you haven't been to yet that has something you need to unlock the next part. And, it's part of those games, but that's literally all this game is after a while. So but I still dug it. I don't think I liked it as much as the first one.
I played two things quickly I could talk about before we get into 12 minutes. I played Toodee and Topdee, which I don't know if you guys remember talking about this, but it is a sort of like, well, it's a puzzle game. I don't know if I would call it an action puzzle game, but basically one character exists in a 2D plane and one is in a 3D plane, and you can switch between which plane you're playing in. And basically, when you switch, whichever player is in the opposite plane, they can't move. They're stuck there, and you only play as the other person. So there's a lot of puzzles that involve, one character moving a block so the other person can proceed. And then there's this mechanic of finding keys, which kind of unlock doorways, and there's sort of like blocks that disappear. So there's a lot of timing elements to the puzzles. So I don't know how far I am. I'm just at the second world. I don't know how many worlds there are, but it was pretty fun. But it didn't really grab me as much as I was expecting it to. I was expecting it to grab me kind of in the same way that like Kaze grabbed me, just because I was really impressed by what I was seeing in the previews and stuff, or not in the previews, in like the screenshots and trailers. I thought it was going to be really cool. So maybe stuff will unlock later on that really hooks me. But so far, it's just been kind of like a going through the paces puzzle game. Nothing's really been super creative yet, or kind of pulling me in. But I like it, and I think the mechanics and how you solve them is pretty neat. I'm looking for something a little more, hopefully soon, now that I'm in the second area. Hopefully they start building on that. And the other game I played a bit of was Dodgeball Academia, which is the dodgeball RPG, I guess, school RPG. And it's really fun. I really like the gameplay, the dodgeball gameplay. There's like a mechanic to catch the ball, deflect it, avoid it, all that stuff, just like a normal dodgeball game. And then you kind of face off against your schoolmates that are different levels and stuff like that. And you level up and you do side quests, which basically just involve playing dodgeball. And so far, it's pretty fun. I think I put in like an hour or two, and I'm enjoying it. The storyline is nothing special so far. It's kind of like a traditional you're at school storyline. But yeah, I would recommend it for anyone who's looking for sort of like a lighthearted RPG and might enjoy a sports angle to RPGs.
And that one is on Game Pass, right?
Yeah, that one is on Game Pass, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird we haven't played Knockout City yet, but there's another dodgeball game.
Yeah.
I've got it downloaded.
Oh, me too. So 12 minutes. Are we doing this?
Into 12 minutes? We're at an hour.
I mean, I would like to do like a full Game Junk reviews, but I don't know if you want to wait on that or just kind of give some initial impressions, because you haven't finished it yet, right, Frank?
No, I wasn't planning on it. I really got frustrated with it, and I don't know. Did you guys like? Let's start. Did you guys like it? Yes or no?
I liked it. It definitely frustrated me. I would say it made a bad first impression.
Yeah. For
one, the reason that I told Frank before I knew he was going to vomit with the shining carpet, I was like, oh boy. But beyond that,
a new carpet idea, please. Does everything have to be a reference?
Yeah, there's a reference to heavy rain in there too. If you look out the window, he goes like heavy rain or something. But
I didn't notice that. I just, in terms of the first impression, I don't know if we're on the same page here. I kind of like the concept, but it's so restrictive in the way you can solve puzzles. Like at some point you have to prove you're in a time loop. And I figured it out, and I'm like, there was one thing I couldn't figure out. You have to show multiple ways. How would turning on the radio and saying exactly what song is playing not prove it? Like the response was, oh, they play the same things all the time. What? I'm going to tell you exactly what song or what words are going to come out of the like exactly what song it is or something like that. You're telling me that isn't enough, unless maybe, I think it might be a classical piece that she's humming when you get in the house, and maybe that's why. But that seems like a weird way to not be able to do something. And just in general, I don't I don't think it kind of advances the gameplay enough. When I was redoing the loop, I would be doing the same things to get a little bit more of information. And the
Yeah.
fast forwarding sucks. Like, I want to be able to fast forward the stuff that I've done 20 times. And they start
Yeah,
to get better with that. They start to like, oh, now we're just going to skip past this. But I don't know. It has to be played in such a specific way. And I don't think the game designers guide you through that process very well.
Yeah, I agree on that. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, my first time through the loop. So I don't know if we fully said this, but it's basically a point and click adventure game, but you're in a time loop and you're playing the same 12 minutes over and over again. Things are being revealed throughout as you get deeper in. But the first time I was playing it, it soft locked on me. My wife was on the couch and she went to get up, and I was standing right in front of her, and she just kept like trying to stand up and couldn't stand up, and that was it. It was done because it was in cinematic mode and I couldn't move. So that was a little weird. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of things. Like, I know this is kind of the thing with all the classic point and click adventure games where puzzles ultimately sometimes don't make sense, and it's like, how could you know that? This one is not so much that as it's just like you might kind of have the right idea, but you might not do it the right way.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. And yeah, they're at the very end, like the last step, basically before the ending, I was like trying a million things forever before I realized I just had to wait for something to happen, which was kind of annoying.
I liked it. Now, I like these kind of like puzzle story games probably more than you guys, probably more than most people. And I did also get frustrated at points, and I did after like trying a whole bunch of stuff and not getting enough clues. So they do have a little almost like hint system when you restart the loop. The guy sometimes will give you like a little hint, like, oh, I got to figure out how to do this, or I got to figure out how to do that. But the problem is, like, they don't ever expand on that. So if you hit the wall like 3-4 times in a row, they don't then give you, hint level 2, where they tell you more information because obviously you're stuck. They kind of just keep repeating the same thing, or you've done it slightly different, so they don't even give you a good hint anymore. And that kind of stuff is frustrating. So I did like consult a guide at certain points in the game, and basically like I had the right idea, like you were saying, Sean, where like I was just like one tiny bit off, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I'd go do it, and I'd be able to play for more.
I totally agree. I had to go to a guide. I'm like, well, that's basically what I was doing.
Yeah.
There's other versions of the guide that I saw, like the next step, and it was electrocute yourself twice to pass out. I'm like, why would I even think to do that? Like, what's the goal of passing out? What does that afford me? Which I still don't understand. So that's a gap where it's like, what was the goal? Why was that my solution?
I could tell you the goal of that.
Okay.
The goal of that is to teach you that when you turn on the light twice, you get electrocuted. And that anyone who touches that light switch will be electrocuted.
There's a pattern there that you can play with for other reasons. Yeah. But
yes,
I mean, it kind of gets to a point where you're like, you don't necessarily have an objective in the game, right? Like, you need to find out more, but sometimes you don't know what you're waiting to find out. And so it kind of just becomes, okay, I've been through this loop a bunch of times. What haven't I done yet? And it just, when it's working, like when it's clicking and you're finding new things every time through the loop, it's pretty fun. You're like, oh, I should try this. I should try that. Oh, I found this other thing. That means I could do this. And when those things all click, it's great. But then you hit walls, and then you're just like, okay, like I played this game probably I didn't check a guide, and I probably should have, because I was just like trying things over and over again, and it was getting real annoying. So
even the beginning, when you have to find something to prove that you know about something, it's like, I think you have enough information that you're putting out there that something's hidden and that you know what it is. Like, I think you could impress upon the person what's going on, and it's like, no. And I do like that there's a limited amount of things in the environment. I don't think they overwhelm you with stuff. I think they get a lot of mileage out of these few objects. And I must say, I really like the interaction system where you pull things down from the menu and put it on top of things. And sometimes it'll like preview where it's going to go on the table and stuff like that. Like, I think that stuff works really well. It's not a bad game. I found my solutions were so close and were failures. And then I'm going to check a guide. What's the point of even playing this game if I get that close and have to check a guide anyway? The satisfaction for this game is solving the problem or figuring out the puzzles. And a huge thing, I don't know if I'm alone in this. Why is there no clock on the wall in the room? Like, you have to pause to see the time. Like, one of the things you do early on, you have to get the time right. That's something I messed up. I'm like, I know this is what it is. It's like, oh, you have to do it for the first one, and you need to know what time that happens at. So you tell them before that, and there's no clock to, like, you have to keep pausing to see, oh, is it now? Is it now? And it's like, the game's called 12 minutes. It's about a 12-minute loop. Put a clock on the kitchen wall.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, Frank. I don't know how far you got in the game, but there is a timepiece in the game. There is a thing that shows you the time. That is kind of thematic in the game. Okay.
Yeah, but put it on a wall. The whole thing's about time and when things are happening in this loop. I want to know if I've influenced time. If I've, like, gotten myself a little more time by locking a door or something like that. Like, when it's a 12-minute game, the whole thing is showing this clock. The menu's a clock, all this stuff. How is that clock not on the kitchen wall?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I do wonder if they play with, I feel like they fudge the time in some cases, right? Because we talked about sometimes they fast forward things a little bit. Like, I don't know if everything always happens in real time. I could be wrong, but I feel like
I think they say like some time has passed, and just that's where it starts to, it senses you're getting annoyed with doing the same things over and over again and tries to speed that process up. But it's not a terrible game, just not. It is like a point and click adventure. That is the perfect analogy. It's the closest thing to a point and click adventure I think there's been in quite some time, like a classic LucasArts game. And I guess a big feature or selling point was the voice acting, which that far has not been that great to me. It's okay.
Well, they're just big name actors.
Yeah,
I mean, I found Willem Dafoe sounds like Willem Dafoe, but
Daisy
Ridley, and is it James McAvoy? I honestly don't think I would have been able to figure out that it was them if I didn't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A few things on the design front. I actually like that after you do something that is kind of complicated to achieve, there's usually a shortcut to skip past that from that point on. So you don't have to like repeat all of the steps you did before. You kind of like once you prove that you're in a time loop to your wife, then there's like a shortcut. You just talk to her and it just like proves it to her immediately. So you save time that way, which really helps with the frustration. Like if you had to do all that shit every time, this game would be unbearable.
I agree, but in some ways I feel like that should be the way it is. Like the point of the game is to do that. I understand both cases.
Well, but I would say this game is
version of the game is doing everything and being able to fast forward it possibly, but the problem is getting to the point where you can fast forward it. Like I had to go through the proving conversation, and every guide I read said, this part can be a little frustrating. Yeah, no shit. I'm doing the same things over and over again. And I don't know. It feels like, hello, I'm proved to you I'm in a time loop. I know about this thing. What are we doing here? Let's get to the point. But no, you have to do it another way.
Well, I think you could almost think of this game as like a roguelike point and click adventure where you each run, you gain information that let you go further in certain directions. And I kind of like that style. I like you were saying, Frank, the contained area. I like how they let you go everywhere. They let you basically touch anything, and you could collect everything every single time. And you know, at the beginning, things are that you pick up, you have no idea what they're used for. And likewise at the end, you have stuff that you could pick up that is completely useless now because you don't need it anymore, because you've already kind of determined that this is not the path you need to go down. And I like that all that stuff is still there. It's still interactable. You can pick it up if you want. And I kind of like that quality over quantity design aspect that they chose to go down for this game. Now there are like obviously some frustrating parts, but I think designing around all that would probably be really hard, which is why there are some frustrating points. And if you don't teach the player everything or the player doesn't get it, obviously they're going to have to repeat it.
Yeah,
And
I'm building on that. I think the idea is, like you said, when you're getting a little bit more information, like a roguelike in a point and click, it works well. The problem is when that's not the way it works all the time. At some point, you've gotten all the information you can get, and you have to think completely outside the box. So you've been trained to go through this process and try something different, and then you have to do something totally different to get new information. And the game really doesn't set you up to do that. And that's where I agree. It really is impressive design, for what it's trying to do. It impresses occasionally, but it's not perfect. And it's unfortunate that for this game to be great, it kind of has to be perfect. The flaws are what hinders it and forces you to go to a guide that defeats the purpose of playing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of this whole genre of game. That's kind of the problem. I feel like that's partially why these games sort of fell out of favor for a while.
When I played Full Throttle, I had to check a guide constantly. I'm like, how would I know any of this stuff?
Yeah, the hint system is key, and they have a little bit of one, but it's not the best. I will say that the idea of the time loop, though, and keeping it like to a small space all within the apartment is great because, you know, it feels like you can interact with a lot of things and have a lot of different outcomes. And the problem with a lot of these games, when they're bigger games, every item has one specific use and it just doesn't feel like a real world that you're interacting with. But this one, because they kept the scope small, there's a lot of stuff you can do in that apartment, which is cool.
Now, I'm going to step in here and say, I think this has covered everything about the game, except for the ending. So I don't think I'm going to play it. If you guys want to talk about the ending, I can edit it at the end for spoiler. It's up to you.
Sure. I mean,
I don't know what else we'd say in a review that we haven't said today, other than talk about the ending.
Yeah, and we haven't really touched on story stuff at all, but I can.
You still think it's worth it? If there's something you really think there's a lot of meat on that bone.
I don't know. Huck, do you have other stuff to say that's like gameplay related?
No, not really. I really it is just the ending and story stuff. So Frank's probably right. I don't know if we really need to do a full.
Yeah. Okay. Review. Well, then we can just go. Like I have a couple story things I can mention, and then we can get into spoilers, I guess. But like generally, I didn't like. It does feel, and I guess I should say when I said it didn't make a good first impression, I actually did like the opening credits. I thought that was kind of cool, and it was setting a mood, and it does feel like there's an artistic vision here. But I will say the story to me ultimately just feels like a bunch of twists. It doesn't. I don't think it's that deep. I don't know really what the game's trying to say, and I know there's multiple endings, so that kind of makes it even more tricky to try and decipher if there's really some meaning there. But I don't know. The twists were a bit silly. And I know there are some people who have issues with where the game goes. We can get into that in spoilers, but I get it. There's violence against your wife quite a bit in this game. And I mean, I had read that some people just don't like having to go through this loop over and over again where there's violence being committed. And at first I was like, well, it didn't seem that bad, you know, like you get tied up. Sometimes you get strangled, but there's one particular playthrough that gets pretty violent. I think that's kind of disturbing.
I don't know if I even did that one. And well, you'll have to spoil it for me.
I think you did, because in order to beat the game, you would have had to do it. But
okay. I guess maybe I'm just a cold-hearted bastard.
We'll add the pause menu for the clock. Getting back to my complaints about that, the second hand, if it goes below this, like it only has the top half of the clock. So I don't know how often like exact times are important, but the second hand you can't see for half of the minute.
Well, I never used that clock, so
Okay.
not that.
I thought it
important.
was going to be a key part of gameplay. So maybe it was
I
just
don't.
the first thing that it's important for. But
I don't even really know what you're referring to in terms of
thunder.
the
You have
timing.
to do the thunder before the
Oh,
first thunder strike. And
okay. Well, I mean that after you get that wrong one time, then you know to say it right away.
I guess. I thought I had the guide I read said you have to do it just before the thunder strike, so maybe it's
Oh
more-
no,
Okay.
you don't.
I didn't.
You could just
didn't even-
basically say, "Go ahead, Sean."
I didn't even do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. You just
You didn't
basically.
use the thunder? What did you use?
Trying to think now. The
Well,
gift.
you could use.
Yeah, the gift.
and
sure.
then
He used the thunder. Don't listen to him.
I think
no,
it's the
I,
only
de-
two
I
things you
definitely
can
did
use.
not use the thunder.
Oh,
I wish we had Jay's soundboard.
the
Can you
radio
use
then.
The thunder. Little ghost.
Must have been the
Oh.
radio then.
It wasn't the radio either. What the heck did I use? It's like something you get, I think. Maybe it was just the watch. Maybe I just showed her the watch. I honestly don't remember now.
Maybe. But for the thunder, you literally you could say it to her right away, and then you just have to say, "Oh, let's wait a bit. Let's wait a bit," and
So
then
the
it
time
just
is
makes
not
you
that
wait.
long.
No, it's not. Yeah,
So the guide might have misled me down that.
yeah, it did. Yeah. So that you have to wait for the thunder at that point. You can't go and get like the second item. So it makes the timing later on a little tighter, but there's still plenty of time. Anyways, that's probably spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into spoiler, but let's just say from here on in, we'll spoil 12 minutes. So if you don't want to hear, bye. I don't know anything else we need to say before.
Well, yeah, let's because I want to go bye too. So let's wrap up the show, and we'll do spoiler stuff after that. So thanks for listening. That's all for this week. We'll be back next week with hopefully an announcement better than anything at Gamescom, except for Doke AV. And you can check us out at youtube.com/GameJunk. Email us at gamejunkpodcast@gmail.com. Sean on Twitter is FilmJunk. Andrew is Equilibrium Sis. And My Angry Commute. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. And now the spoiler discussion of 12 minutes. Bye-bye.
So you don't want to hear this, Frank, even though you're not going to play it?
I mean, there's a chance I'll play it someday. I just don't know if we need to wait for me to play it. So
Okay.
I'd rather not know and at least have the opportunity to get a platinum if it ever comes out on PlayStation.
Okay.
I'll be
Leave.
back. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, here we go. So, what ending did you get? So, I only got one ending. And
As did I. I think there's some where you can get like an achievement and then you have a last chance to sort of turn back.
Mhm.
But if you commit to an ending, then you're done and you basically start the whole game over again.
okay. So that's
So-
kind of frustrating
Yeah.
in a sense, but I kind of respect it because I feel like if I were to go back and replay the game, it would go pretty quickly. Like you would, because it's such a confined space, you would be able to kind of solve everything pretty quickly. It might take you a few tries to kind of like remember what you did first, because there is that kind of layering of the story as you go. So you kind of have to like unwrap that and remember what you did first.
Yeah.
But I did the alone ending, which I think it was called.
That's the one I did as well.
Oh, okay. So that kind of sucks that we experienced the exact same
Well,
ending.
I don't know how many endings there are because I think that one, there's two paths and they both lead to an ending. It's just different endings, right? Like I think
I
you can
don't know.
either choose to be with her or not with her.
Right. At the end.
Yeah.
So the big spoiler part is that you are her sister, but you're also her wife. So there's some incest going on and you're having a baby. But now when I read that, I was like, is this even possible? like from a timeline perspective, because one of the main things was that she was at that New Year's party, so couldn't have killed her dad. That was like the big thing, right?
Right. And
Now,
the whole thing through the first part of the game is she thinks she killed her father because
yes.
she did shoot him, but he survived and she left and ran away.
Yes. But didn't, now I'm obviously misremembering this, or it's the game doesn't make any sense. But weren't you, as the guy, at that New Year's party with her? Doesn't she talk about how you are there
I
with
thought
her?
so too. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, I'm pretty confused about a few things in the ending because the other thing that happens is like, so you mentioned that you're her sister or half sister or whatever,
Stepsister. Yeah.
but yeah, like you also are the killer. You killed her father.
Yes.
Well, both of your fathers, I guess.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah. You killed your dad and her dad.
and so there's a flashback where you see how you killed him, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
first thing that's weird there is Willem Dafoe is voicing him.
Yes.
So in the game up till that point, Willem Dafoe is a friend of the father and is kind of was devastated by his death and is kind of coming to half get revenge and half just get this watch because his daughter is sick and he needs to pay her medical
Get
bills.
money. Yeah.
But now in the flashback where you killed the father, he's voicing the father. So I'm thinking, okay, is he actually the father or is he like his brother? Like what's the reasoning there?
Are they twins or something? Is that's
Yeah.
why they sound the same? It's very confusing, that ending.
And so then when you get that alone ending, and this is like, I didn't pick up on this. I only kind of read about this afterwards and I was like, oh, that's what that means. So when you get the alone ending, you basically, there's another conversation you have with the dad voiced by Willem Dafoe. And he basically says,
Is it the dad though? Because he's bald now.
oh, is that the difference?
It's
Maybe
like
that's
he's
what it
the
is.
it's like he's the friend now. Except
Okay, so maybe
because
that,
it's voiced by William Dafoe or Willem Dafoe or however you say his name. It's very confusing because both characters are the same guy. So which character is that?
okay, yeah, I didn't know that difference. But like, I guess and what I read afterwards is that, so he gives you like this ultimatum, basically, like, do you want to be with her or not? And then the ending we chose, we said, nope, we're good. And kind of just walk away and live happily ever after, having cut her out of your life and you're
Yeah.
good to go.
And then you go to the apartment and it's empty. There's nothing in there. And then that's
Right.
basically the end. Can
And
you
so
do anything? I don't think you could do anything in there.
I don't think so.
You could like flush the toilet.
Is there anything with flushing the watch down the toilet? I don't think that really does anything, right?
I saw in a video that you can do that, I think, but I don't think it does anything in the game.
Yeah, I did that, and then like one of the loops, you tell him like I flushed the watch down the toilet, but then he just kills
Oh,
him.
really?
So, but anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so I guess one of the interpretations of the ending is that whole thing, that conversation with him, where he says, do you want to be with her or not, is all in your head,
Okay.
and that you're like grappling with this fact that you know that she's your sister and you shouldn't be doing this, and like. I at that point I'm like, well, so is any of this game real or is this all in your, like I'm so confused now. So maybe somebody out there listening has a better explanation. I mean, I haven't done that much reading on it, but as I said, I think it just becomes like it feels like the game is kind of just constructed in a way that you're going to have multiple twists where, because there's a point where you think the game's about to end, right? You think everything's been solved and she gives, you've proved her innocence. She gives the watch to the guy and he walks away and you're like, okay, cool. And then it restarts again and you're like, what the fuck? And so then of course, yeah, there's the added twist of you're the killer now. And it just feels like it's just a twist. Like, I don't know what the game's saying at that point. So,
yeah. And like, the weird thing is, there's no sort of like mention of amnesia or why he may not remember that. Like, is he just a literal psychopath who would kill the dad? I mean, they did say it was an accident, but then would killing your dad in an accidental fashion then drive you to like obsessively track down your half sister and then marry her and then have babies with her? Like that just like seems such a stretch. Like there's no like triggering moment, or and then even there's just so much there's so much blank between like when the you quote unquote were born and getting to that point where he shoots the father. Like why was he even in that room? Like did he just like accidentally find out that his soon to be wife or girlfriend was his sister, and then that's what led him to that conversation originally with the dad? Like there's no real backstory there. Like why is he even in that conversation with his father where he shoots him? Like there's like a lot of blank space in there where like, okay,
that's again where I'm like, okay, maybe that part's in his head too. Like the conversations with the dad or the friend are all in his head.
Yeah, it does seem like maybe you're just a bit of a psycho and
like
all of it is made up.
In terms of him forgetting some stuff, the way I interpret it is, you know, he killed the dad. It was an accident. It was traumatic. That kind of got blocked out of his mind. He randomly meets the sister and ends up marrying her. And then, you know, after all these events happen, the memory triggers and he's like, oh shit, she's my sister. Like he did not know, like that had been blocked out of his head. He didn't know until that point. But I mean, I don't know for sure if that's what's intended.
Yeah. So, and the bad thing is the way I was originally thinking it was going was like, okay, you were born through this affair with the nanny. Then through some sort of crazy serendipity, you meet your sister. You don't know it's your sister. You fall in love. You get married. Okay, that all makes sense. But then in that conversation with the dad, it explicitly says that you know it's your sister. And like, so obviously at that point in time, he is already dating her. And then going back to the part we were talking about before, where there's a clue on the fridge that proves to the wife that she didn't kill her father, is because she was in New York or wherever she was at a New Year's party on New Year's Eve. And that's the day her dad was killed. And the whole reason why it couldn't have been her is because in order for her to be in New York, that's like a 5-hour drive away from where the dad was. But then it also is stated, like we were mentioning, that you were at that party. So if she could not have gotten there in 5 hours, how are you able to get there in 5 hours? And how are you able to then get back to the party in 5 hours? Or whatever they said was unreasonable that she couldn't have killed the dad. So like that aspect of the story made no sense to me. Now, if I'm misremembering that he was at that party, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that she had brought up that he was there. I don't know if they were dating at the time, which also I thought was implied that they were not quite dating yet, but he was there. So then the scene with the dad doesn't make any sense, because why would he know that this random person is his sister? So then he looks even more like a psychopath. Like he kills the dad and then he's like, I'm going to go date my sister. And he like hunts her down. So like that is like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I had to replay the game and look more, or like watch a Let's Play or something and kind of pay more attention to those finer details of how they explain that. Cause like right now the like storyline just doesn't seem plausible to me, you know?
Yeah, so I'm just reading a few things online here, just, you know, again, scanning what's out there. So I forgot to mention, so the thing right before you trigger the final ending, you go back, you look at the watch, and it's like counting backwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that part, like I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's weird, it's counting backwards. Put it away, kept trying to do stuff. I didn't know you just have to sit there and stare at it for a while before things kick in, which was annoying. But
apparently if you do that though and just let it play out, something happens. Like you get some sort of achievement or something for something.
Oh, okay.
I
So
thought I read.
one of the things I'm reading here is that they're saying that, and I don't know if this is hinted at somewhere else, that it seems like the Willem Dafoe character actually hypnotizes you with the watch or something.
Oh, really? Oh, I
Like,
didn't see that.
I don't know, but and they're saying that the flashback, like the final decision, the conversation with the bald father, is supposed to be taking place in the present. Which I'm like, okay, so the
Really?
father's not
Because
dead then? Like, is that what they're saying?
no, but are they saying that that is the cop, the friend? They're saying that is the dad though, because you're
They
in
refer
his
to it
study.
as the father. So,
Okay, well that also makes zero sense. If it's the father, then the father is dead. So that makes no
okay, so they
sense.
say one of the other endings is what they're calling the true ending is you talk to her about the book she's reading,
Okay.
which is something about mindfulness. And this also includes what seems to be Defoe's character hypnotizing the protagonist. This scene, one of the few outside the apartment, is the only definitive end. The husband has resigned to the truth and agrees to leave his wife, or the father hypnotizes the husband to forget, and the time loops have been part of the hypnosis. Or the husband has suffered a psychological break due to trauma. I mean, it's like, could be all of these things, so nobody really knows.
Okay. So I'm gonna err on the side of saying that uh, there's like a gigantic mistake in the timeline, and the game designer didn't catch it before, and that the story actually does not make any sense, and there is no real explanation, and they're just trying to pigeonhole in these things to try to make sense of it. That's my guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to do a little more reading on it. Like the first few things that I've read online about it don't seem very definitive, and it seems like everybody's confused. So if anybody out there actually has a very solid, plausible explanation for everything, let us know. I mean, like I said, the twists are kind of fun, but like I just don't know that it makes a lot of sense. Don't know that it really has much to say. And yes, people have problems with the fact that your wife's getting beat up throughout this game. You have to drug her multiple times throughout the game. Like, it's
Come on, you just put her to sleep. She's
I
having
mean,
a
that's
tough
the kind
day.
of stuff where, like, to me, it feels like something you did in old school point and click adventure games, and like that's where it like if you think about the actual like take these characters as real characters and serious drama, yeah, that's a little weird, but that's when you just look at the game side of it, like that, those are kind of things that happen in all these games. So,
Did you ever drug yourself?
no, I tried to, I couldn't figure out how to do it,
Oh, you just like put the pills in the mug with the water,
and
like
then
you
you
would,
actually drink it.
and then you just click it in your inventory and he drinks it.
Oh,
And
I
then
haven't
and then
tried
he's
that.
like I think that was a mistake. Or something like that. And then he just passes out.
Oh.
And then the loop starts.
Okay. I think I put it on the table and then tried to click to drink it on the table and that didn't work or
Yeah,
something.
if you just click on it while it's in your inventory, it'll use it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was pretty funny. It's like, I think that was a mistake. Yeah. All right. Anything else? I don't know. I can't think of anything else to talk about.
No, that's about it. Like I said, I feel like I should have done a little more reading to see if there is some concrete explanation for everything out there, but
The definitive solution to
yeah.
what this game actually is, what actually happened. It's hard to
Yeah.
say. I mean, it is very confusing, especially with there's like some uh there's like amnesia obviously for no apparent reason, or he's just psycho. So I mean, either way, it's messed up. So who knows? It's a messed up ending. I did not
Yep.
see it coming. Definitely a twist.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it's more of a twist because it makes no sense. More
That's
than
the ultimate twist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like yeah. As soon as they were talking about how you killed the father, I was like, wait a second, weren't they at the same place in New Year's? Like that was then after that point, I was like, okay, what the hell? Like this game is not ending how I think they intended to, because I'm pretty sure that is a contradiction in this timeline. But I don't know. I'll have to. Well, actually, you can do some reading and let me know how it turns out.
Or we can wait for the wonderful listeners and viewers to fill us in. So
Yeah.
please do
perfect. Yeah. How wrong we are.
that.
Excellent.
All right.
Let's wrap
Thanks
it
for
up.
listening.
Bye-bye.